Have you ever woken up to realize that you're a lizard? I mean, I've had my fair share of bad nights, but this one takes the cake. Welcome to Anime Done Quick. Today, we will be looking at the Netflix exclusive anime Dorohedoro, adapted from the long-running manga of the same name written by Kyuhei Ishida. Dorohedoro is an action anime with bits of horror and comedy thrown in as well. It was released by Studio Map in winter 2020 and spans 12 episodes, at least so far. So sit back and get comfortable as we quickly recap the series and conclude with a review of our own. Caution, spoilers ahead. In a land of interesting premises, Dorohedoro still somehow manages to distance itself in originality. It takes place in a dystopian world called Ho, inhabited by lowly citizens and dwarfed in status by their counterpart magic users. Life is all too grim and dingy for the citizens of Ho, with many mysteries to be uncovered at every turn. The show starts out following Kaiman, a large man with a spiked lizard-like head and red crosses tattooed on his eyes, as he pushes the head of a sorcerer into his mouth. As this is happening, a man slides up Kaiman's throat, also with red crosses tattooed on his eyelids, and tells the sorcerer you're not the one. The sorcerer's partner, Fujita, escapes the grasp of Kaiman's friend Nikaido to try and save him, only to find Kaiman is unaffected by his magic before Nikaido breaks his finger. Hearing what the man in his throat said from Matsumura, Kaiman instantly slices him into multiple pieces. The dying Matsumura's severed hand summons a door under Fujita, allowing him to escape. Kaiman and Nikaido head back home, with Kaiman stopping to look down the alleyway where he was found. 2 years previously, Kaiman was found unconscious in the alley by Nikaido, his memory blank and his head reptilian. Since he can dispel the sorcerer's magic by killing the caster, Kaiman has been shoving sorcerers' heads into his mouth since, hoping that the man inside his mouth will identify the culprit. Kaiman returns one day, finds a rookie sorcerer transforming Nikaido into an insect. Kaiman quickly kills the sorcerer, which turns Nikaido back to normal. The next day, Nikaido and Kaiman take a picture of the inside of Kaiman's mouth, unsuccessfully trying to get a clue to the head's identity. Spotting a female sorcerer, Ebisu, emerging from a magic door, Kaiman grabs her and shoves her into his mouth. Fujita suddenly emerges through another door and grabs Ebisu, pulling her from Kaiman's jaws and back to the sorcerer's world, accidentally tearing her face off in the process. That night, Kaiman has a nightmare about the person inside his mouth. Elsewhere, a pair of sorcerer cleaners named Shin and Noi murder a group of gangsters with red crosses tattooed on their eyelids. The plot thickens. Shin and Noi are called in for a meeting with their boss, a highly reputable sorcerer named In. In also summons Fujita and Ebisu and asks Noi to heal Ebisu's face to find out which he knows. In requests the group find and kill Kaiman and Nikaido. Kaiman's boss, Vox, tells him to toss a trash bag in the incinerator, inside which Kaiman finds a dismembered person inside who cannot die. Later, Kaiman and Nikaido head to another town in Ho to visit a magical acupuncturist who might be able to give Kaiman his human face back. Nikaido fights off some attackers while out shopping and gains a clue to the acupuncturist's location. The two then head to a bar where the acupuncturist tries to change Kaiman's face, but all Kaiman does is shed his skin with no visible change. Several Ho residents arm themselves for the Night of the Living Dead. Once per year, the severe magic pollution in Ho causes dead people to rise from the grave as zombies, forcing local priests to bury dead with metal tokens that can be exchanged for prizes. Kaiman, Nikaido, and Vox decide to join the festivities, with Nikaido hoping to buy a new meat grinder with tokens. Shin and Noi head to Ho with Fujita and Ebisu, hoping to find and kill Kaiman and Nikaido, but finding themselves in the middle of the zombie invasion. Ebisu is soon bitten by a zombie, turning her feral, which I guess now makes this a zombie anime. Shin and Noi soon find and seriously injure Nikaido and decapitate Kaiman. Nikaido uses magic power to create a door and escape with Kaiman's body and head, revealing she is a sorcerer. 5 days later, Kaiman recovers in the hospital by inexplicably regrowing his head. Vox tells Kaiman that Nikaido is a sorcerer, but Kaiman doesn't believe him. Kaiman returns to the Hungry Bug as Nikaido wonders what he'll think of her past as a sorcerer. Soon after, Vox appears with Kaiman's severed head in a jar, suggesting they record a dissection on the head. Early into the dissection, the hospital's power suddenly cuts and the head disappears in the confusion, the only evidence a shadow briefly captured on the camera. The In family visits a sorcerer named Turkey, who used his magic to make a temporary clone that can lead people to a target, in hopes it will lead them to the sorcerer who cast magic on Kaiman. Turkey's clone leads the In family to an abandoned apartment, where they discover a rotting head in a safe. After fighting the angered clone for it, Noi heals the head and discovers it's the same as the clones, a member of the anti-magic cross-size gang that opposes In. Later, the In family goes to a formal party at a mansion where In hopes to recruit a potential partner, a sorcerer with the ability to bring people back from the dead. Shin and Noi kill a couple of sorcerers who are using illegal black powder to enhance their powers, and In discovers the true form of his new partner, a small cat-like creature hiding under the supposed necromancer's dress. In kills the false necromancer, adopting the creature and dubbing it cockroach. Meanwhile, in Whole, Kaiman and Nikaido go to visit Vox's colleague, another doctor, who might be able to help Kaiman find his identity. After entering the doctor's home, the duo find it to be a labyrinth they can't navigate and decide to have an impromptu New Year's Day meal. In the middle of the meal, they are joined by Kasuke, the doctor in question, who explains magic dust has started to gather in his house, affecting the architecture. After vacuuming the dust and restoring his house, Kasuke then shows the duo a magic door, made from vivisected sorcerers, that allows passage to their world. Disguised as sorcerers, Kaiman and Nikaido begin searching for clues. Nikaido wanders off and is handed a calling card by a demon, while Kaiman suddenly recovers some of his memories, realizing the man in his mouth was a person he knew called Drisu. Concurrently, In uses cockroach to revive the cross-sized head found in the safe, who reveals he is Risu. In places Risu's head on a magic-powered mechanical body and interrogates him further, but Risu provides little information of value. In sends Shin and Noi to follow a lead on a base owned by Cross-Eyes. Initially trying to negotiate with the Cross-Eyes for their boss location, Shin and Noi are attacked but easily retaliate and kill them. Kaiman and Nikaido talk a Cross-Eyes member they spot in the restaurant, only to lose and then find him after Shin and Noi's massacre. Their leads are cold besides Risu's name, which causes Nikaido to suggest she and Kaiman split up to cover more ground. Working alone, Nikaido sells her powder in a magic smoke pawn shop, killing the owner and stealing back her magic once he pays her. Nikaido then meets with a devil named Dasu, who reveals that Risu is being held by In. She breaks into In's mansion only to encounter Noi, who challenges her to a fight. Nikaido evades Noi, finding her way to Risu. Trying to abduct him, Nikaido punches In and shatters his mask, enraging him and causing a huge magic outburst that covers everything in mushrooms. Risu, unaffected by In's magic due to powering his prosthetic body, uses the confusion to flee. Nikaido also narrowly escapes but is injured, forcing Kaiman to take her to Vox when a huge mushroom sprouts from her back. Speaking with Vox and Kasuke, Kaiman learns they know Shin as a former patient, thickening the plot further. A flashback shows that sorcerers were historically considered lesser casters in Whole. This caused them to be hunted and killed by human gangs. Shin, unaware his late mother was a sorcerer, accidentally bleeds magic dust at work, causing his boss to inform the local vigilantes. Fleeing, Shin returns home to find his father has been tortured to death by the vigilantes, prompting him to single-handedly murder them with a claw hammer. Shin uses hospital equipment to vivisect his arms and try to surface his magic veins, hoping to increase their power at risk of bleeding to death. He is found by Dr. Vox and Kasuke, who reconstruct his arms and surface his veins, fully activating Shin's magic but leaving his arms paralyzed. Following Shin's surgery, Vox and Kasuke receive a large influx of magic victims. The remaining local vigilantes, whom Shin has dismantled into living pieces using his newly acquired magic, leading to the dissolution of Whole's vigilantes. In the present, Kasuke insists to Kaiman that Nikaido is a sorcerer, noting that they operated on her and that sorcerers have distinct anatomy due to their magic veins. Hearing a scream, Kaiman runs to her room and finds she's been abducted from her bed. Pursuing the kidnapper, Kaiman follows them into the sewers at the alley where he first awoke. Pinned by the kidnapper's giant human-eyed cockroach, Johnson, the kidnapper mistakenly believes that crystallized beads of magic powder in sorcerers are gemstones that can turn him into a sorcerer. Cutting off the kidnapper's feet and throwing it to distract Johnson, the kidnapper claims to recognize Kaiman and Nikaido from the day the former appeared, only to die from blood loss. In buys the magic pawn shop and has Shin and Noi investigated, discovering that Ebisu has sold her magic powder there several times. He orders her stock powder to be examined to learn her magical specialism. Despite his help, In reveals he has been unable to find Fujita a replacement partner. A bitter Fujita heads to Whole, plotting to find and kill Kaiman with a pistol. While initially taunting his unpopularity, Ebisu follows him to help. Shortly afterwards, a worker returning with Ebisu's magic powder trips, accidentally throws the vial and smashes it on Noi, causing her to scream. Vox, visiting the Hungry Bug, bemoans that they lack a required 9th needed player for their baseball match against a rival hospital. 13, a regular at Nikido's restaurant, volunteers himself, and we're on our way to the obligatory filler episode. Across Whole, Fujita applies at the rival hospital for their pitcher position to get closer to Kaiman, with Ebisu being taken as their mascot. Preparing to pitch, Fujita is horrified to see their first batsman is Matsumura, his corpse reanimated by Kasuke and kept docile using electricity. The rival hospital begins cheating to try and win the match, with Ebisu drugging their remaining pitchers. In response, Kasuke uses Johnson, domesticated and controllable through electroshocking, to regain the lead. Fujita then begins sipping a drink that increases his smoke output, allowing him to affect the speed of the ball. Nikaido, skilled enough to bat the shot, accidentally concusses the rival hospital director, allowing Fujita to escape with Matsumura during the confusion. Shin follows Noi, who has turned into a reptilian human due to Ebisu's magic and begins an uncontrollable rampage. Shin narrowly manages to incapacitate Noi, getting seriously maimed in the process, and has Shin carry Noi up to a man called Chota, a sorcerer obsessively infatuated with who restores Noi to normal by mixing a dispelling potion. Elsewhere in the mansion, Ebisu complains her head hurts from stealing Fujita's smoke-enhancing drink, only to be attacked by the undead Matsumura, who has become violent without his shock treatment. Overwhelmed and under attack, Ebisu emits a huge amount of magic and transforms herself into a huge dinosaur, causing her to crush Matsumura's remains into a paste. Poor guy died twice. Fujita takes Matsumura's pulped remains to Kikirage, who is unable to restore him to life. The report on Ebisu's magic powder explains she is the sorcerer who can turn things into a reptile. Ebisu confirms this, her returning memories, including the man in Kaiman's mouth saying you're the one who got in my way. Kaiman, unwilling to let Nikaido get hurt any further, quits his job and heads back to the sorcerer world alone, leaving Nikaido to learn of it from Vox. Shortly after arriving in the magic realm, Kaiman intervenes with thugs trying to kidnap a pie maker named Fukuyama, leading Fukuyama's bosses Tamba and Kiryan to take him in as cover staff for his pie shop. Risu returns to his apartment, where his head was found inside a safe, and recalls his death. Sent on a routine job by the Cross Eyes, he turns down his friend Deiko's offer for company as he is explicitly told to go alone. Waiting at his meeting point, an unknown assailant fatally stabs Risu from behind. In the present, Risu realizes that he is starting to run out of magic charge, at which point his body will fail and he'll be helpless. In begins planning the Blue Night Festival, a multi-day event where sorcerers place ads and applications to seek a partner, ending the event by signing a demon's binding magical contract with them. Kaiman sneaks into the event by leaving work and stealing an event employee uniform, but becomes sidetracked when other workers keep giving him responsibilities. Noi goes to the toilet alone only to be blown up by another magic user, Baku, who seeks to force her into being his partner over Shin. Shin finds the bathroom destroyed and Noi missing, only to be incapacitated with sniper fire sedatives by Baku's accomplice, Yaku. Kaiman is accidentally injured by both Baku and Yaku, prompting Tamba to pick a fight with them. Kaiman causes Baku to accidentally self-destruct by cutting off his detonation hand, while Fukuyama reveals his magic skill by turning Yaku into a giant meat pie, the group unknowingly saving Shin in the process. Elsewhere, Risu breaks into the Blue Night Festival to steal stored smoke, only to find Baku's magic inhibiting chest containing Noi. Opening the door and unwittingly freeing Noi, her healing magic immediately triggers and floods the room, also egg-growing Risu's original body in the process. A flashback shows how Shin and Noi met a decade ago. A homeless Shin, his limp arms now rotting, is challenged to a fair fight for stealing food by his cousin, revealed to be Noi. Shin's arms are healed and he strikes her with his claw hammer, fleeing while yelling he'll pay her back. Shin is shortly hired as In's cleaner and quickly becomes friends with Noi, who is undergoing grueling training to ascend into a demon. Her final exam requires full magic abstinence for a year. As Blue Night approaches, Shin and Noi are attacked by Baku and Yaku, with Shin victorious but fatally injured. Shin considers his debt repaid, but Noi immediately fails her exam to save his life, hiring Noi as Shin's understudy, and pushes them into a contract partnership. In the present, Noi finally locates Shin's unconscious body in time to renew their contracts before Blue Night ends. Fujita admits he's devastated that he couldn't find his only partnership applicant, only to realize it was Ebisu from her bashful response, and discovers Nikaido was also the pawnshop attacker, and that her magic could be the rumor time control power he is seeking, and creates a voodoo doll of Nikaido, causing her to collapse at Vox's birthday party as a huge mushroom familiar burst from her mushroom scar. Attacked by the familiar and the hungry bug, Nikaido and Johnson manage to distract it long enough for everyone to escape upstairs. In a flashback, Nikaido recalls receiving her sorcerer's mask from her demon friend Asu. Climbing into her loft and recovering it, she gains the strength to easily defeat the familiar. This is revealed to be a trap. However, as the familiar's pooling blood turns into a door on the ground, dropping everyone into In's mansion. The head demon Shidaruma appears and confirms that Nikido's magic can control time and, despite her blatant lack of consent, Nikaido is forced to exchange contracts with In. Shin and Noi also successfully renew their contracts, while an upset Fujita is unable to enter a partnership with Ebisu as she suffers diarrhea and cannot sign before the night ends. Kaiman, suffering mysterious nightmares based on his unrecalled memories, goes for a late walk but is followed by Tamba, who interrogates him. Learning Kaiman is actually a magic victim and not a sorcerer, Tamba offers to help him find the Cross Eyes through a potential lead. He received a letter from a cross-eyed customer on death row who wants Fukuyama's pie as his last meal, and brings Kaiman along. Kaiman puts the prisoner into his mouth, who recognizes the man inside as Risu, but he cannot explain before he is dragged into hell. Kaiman is narrowly saved from the same fate when Asu appears, who warns him that Nikkaido is imprisoned at En's mansion. Nikido's contract begins to make her submit to En, and En requests she be given a new mask by Chidaruma. Kasuke, Johnson, 13, and Vox escape En's dungeon, with Johnson having a cockroach pick locks and Kasuke stealing Fugitive's gun. Kasuke holds him at gunpoint, only to be surprised and pinned by Shin. Shin recognizes Kasuke as the doctor who saved his life, and moves his group to a safe house. Later agreeing to release them, he refuses their appeals to free Nikkaido too. In En's mansion, Nikkaido is mentored by Chota, who begins trying to murder her out of jealousy under the false En's assassination survival training. Chota then shows Nikkaido an autobiographical movie that explains En's past. En's substantial magic power turned his parents into mushrooms when he was a baby, leading him to be picked up by a burglar who sold into a trafficking ring that bleeds sorcerers of their smoke for profit. Left to die once his smoke dried up, En's rage allowed him to survive even being thrown into hell. Eventually noticed by head demon Chidaruma, who named him En, he soon returned him to the magic world and began liberating sorcerers and building his family. After 20 years unopposed, En watched as his capos began dying to a sorcerer hunter, identified as an eye fighter with cross tattoos on his eyes. With his inner circle dead and Shin and Noi seriously wounded, En attacked the assassin in a rage and blacked out. He came to with the entire neighborhood engulfed in giant mushrooms, later labeled a freak incident dubbed the Death Shroom Incident. En saw the assassin step through a closing magic door despite being beheaded. The film ends and En appears, explaining to Nikkaido that he needs her time powers to return to the Death Shroom Incident and confirm whether the assassin really did survive. Disguised as Tamba's pie mascot, Kaiman assists him in a cook-off against his ex-wife Asuka held outside En's estate. Asuka tries to cheat the contest, enchanting her pies to make customers obsessed with them. Kaiman then seizes the distraction to drag Nikkaido away from a distracted En. Nikkaido stops Kaiman and argues that she wants to be with En, unaware of the contract's effect on her. Kaiman warns her that he's rescuing her by force if need be, and Nikkaido asks if he thinks he can. In a flashback, Risu reports on an implied assassination for the Cross Eyes, only for his friend Aikawa to interfere and attack the gangsters. Aikawa warns Risu against affiliating with the Cross Eyes, but Risu argues against it. Despite attending a sorcery school, Risu is still unable to produce any magic smoke, and feels that the Cross Eyes rumored research in Berith is the only hope for people who can't use magic. In the present, Risu heads to Berith in search of his killer. An unwilling Kaiman is forced to defend himself against Nikkaido, but refuses to seriously fight back. Nikkaido beats Kaiman severely, taunting him by confirming that she is a sorcerer. Hallucinating from a concussion and his legs crushed, Kaiman tries to crawl to safety but blacks out. Nikkaido pursues, but is stabbed in the back by an unseen man she doesn't recognize. Chota gleefully finds Nikido's body, only for Asu to appear and pull En's contract out through her wound. Asu hands Chota the contract in exchange for his silence. Nikkaido wakes and Asu explains that she has only come to her senses temporarily. Being close to En will cause her contract to regrow, with the only true solutions being En's death or waiting for the next blue night to pass. Kaiman, unconscious from his wounds, recalls waking in Vox's hospital in a dream. Unable to remember even his name, Nikkaido notes he looks like a Kaiman and suggests it as a nickname, which he adopts. Waking in the present, Kaiman grabs Nikkaido and shoves her in his mouth as she's a sorcerer. Nikkaido informs him that the man in his mouth is Risu, and Asu informs them that Risu is currently in Berith. Asu opens a magic door to help them escape En, buying them time by transforming Chota into Nikido's doppelganger. Exiting the door in a ruined city, Kaiman and Nikkaido hide from patrolling demons in an abandoned subway. Asked about her past, Nikkaido explains that her magic can control time but accidentally kills a friend with it, causing her to swear off using it for life. She began hiding in Hole to try and evade people like En who will want to exploit it, protecting humans from sorcerers in the hope she would become closer to a human. Given that she refuses to use magic and promises to stay friends when Kaiman reverts to normal, they agree to stay friends. Dorohedoro is a very unique anime that appeals to a more mature crowd. In other words, it's great for adults. The pacing can be a bit challenging, but I for one enjoyed the world building and characters. There is a blend of action and comedy that I found fairly interesting, and the story proves to be quite intriguing. Dorohedoro also scratches that filler itch with the baseball episode and other portions that offer some brief relief from the main story. The characters are also pretty deep, as you see both the surface evil nature of the villains as well as their day-to-day, less than scary personalities. My favorite character is probably Ebisu because she's absolutely hilarious and reminds me quite a bit of Ed from Cowboy Bebop. The music in Dorohedoro is a mixture of rock and electronic, and it flowed well with the series but didn't stand out as necessarily special. Voice acting in English and Japanese is top-notch, and I really enjoyed the performances of the main cast. When it comes to animation, Dorohedoro is a double-edged sword. Many people criticize the use of CGI over traditional 2D animation, but it was done quite well in this series. It is subtle enough that it doesn't detract from the anime in any way. Many people over the years said that Q's manga was unable to be adapted due to its intricate environments and panels, but judging from the source material, Studio MPPL and director Yuichiro Hayashi knocked it out of the park. Most importantly, Dorohedoro is fun. There's plenty of great action, comedy, and memorable lines to go around. Though the series doesn't trap up all the loose ends, it doesn't tend on too much of a cliffhanger either. Overall, I give Dorohedoro an 81 out of 100, a great anime. I recommend this to fans of shows like Kekkei Sensen, another dystopian-type anime with plenty of action and comedy. And that about does it. Have you seen this series? Let me know your thoughts on it below. This has been Anime Done Quick, and I'll see you next time.